This is what a $100,000 med spa looks like. You're doing most of the work yourself. Patients come in, but it's kind of inconsistent. Some weeks you're busy, some weeks aren't. At $250,000, you're busier, but your profit hasn't improved much because your expenses have improved, along with your revenue. At $500,000, you've got a team and momentum, but every important decision still goes through you. Then something changes. At $1 million, your business starts working differently. Patients rebook consistently, the team's operating without constant oversight, and you're keeping 20 to 25% of your revenue as profit. So where are you right now? Because wherever you're stuck, there's usually one specific thing that's holding you there. I spent more than 20 years helping healthcare businesses grow. I've seen med spas make the jump from starting to 7 figures. And I've seen plenty stall out because they're focused on the wrong things. In this video, I'm going to share with you the shifts that move med spas from $100,000 to $1 million a year. Now, the first gets you from $100,000 to $250,000. The second's going to get you from $250,000 to $500,000. And the third is going to get you from $500,000 to $1 million. And they have to happen in this order. So let's get into it. And if you want help figuring out exactly where you are in this process and what to focus on next, then you can schedule a free call with me through the link in the description. Now, shift 1 is fixing your pricing. If you're stuck between $100,000 and $250,000, you probably don't have a patient problem, you have a pricing problem. The biggest mistake I see at this age is that owners are pricing based on what the med spa down the street is charging. They see a competitor charging about $250 for a procedure, and then they decide to charge $225. Now you're competing on price instead of value. On top of that, they're selling one-off treatments. The patient comes in, they get the service, they pay, and then they leave. They don't purchase a package, they don't have a treatment plan, and so there's no reason to come back. I once worked with a med spa that had pretty full schedule, but their margins were really thin. Their most popular treatment was priced at $300, so we bundled it into a 3-session package because for optimal results, they needed at least 3 sessions. While they lost a couple patients, their revenue per patient increased dramatically, and their business grew without having to add another service or more patients. And that's the key. The fastest way to get from $100,000 a year to $250,000 a year isn't finding more patients. It's increasing the value of the patients you already have. This week, look at your top 5 services and ask yourself this question: am I charging enough to make this worth my while? You might be surprised at your answer. But better pricing only carries you so far, because once you're past the $250,000 mark, the thing that keeps you from getting to $500,000 a year is completely different. So shift number 2 is building a retention engine. Once your pricing is right and your revenue starts climbing past $250,000, the bottleneck shifts. And most owners think the answer is marketing. Things like Meta ads, Google ads, and new patients. But when I look at the numbers, it's usually something else. Patients are coming in, they're just not coming back. I worked with a med spa that was spending thousands of dollars on marketing every month, and they were bringing in plenty of new patients, but their revenue had stalled. So we looked closer and the problem was obvious. There was no system for what happened after the patient walked out the door. They had no follow-up emails, no text to the patient, no treatment plans, and no rebooking process. Patients came in once, then they disappeared. So instead of spending more money on marketing, we fixed the leak. We created simple follow-up processes, started scheduling the next appointment at checkout, and built treatment plans in every consultation. And within a few months, the rebooking rate more than doubled. We actually reduced marketing spend, and the revenue went up because the patients they already had were starting to finally come back. And that's the lesson. The fastest way to get from $250,000 to $500,000 isn't finding more patients, it's keeping the ones that you already have. Now, the med spas that reach 7 figures don't necessarily outspend everyone on marketing. They just lose fewer patients. And the only reason we caught this problem is because we looked at the numbers. And that's exactly why we built the KPI Intelligence Dashboard, specifically for med spas. In about 5 minutes a month, it shows you what's working, what's slipping, and what your biggest opportunities are. And we're currently offering a free 1-month trial right now. The link's in the description. But even with great pricing and a strong retention, most med spas eventually hit another ceiling, and that has nothing to do with getting more patients. So phase 3 is from $500,000 to $1 million a year. Isn't a patient problem, it's an operational problem. And the reason most med spas get stuck between 500,000 and 1 million has nothing to do with patients and everything to do with their operations. I worked with a med spa that was growing really fast. Their revenue was climbing, patients were happy, and everything looked great. Then their lead front desk coordinator quit. And within 2 weeks, everything fell apart. Leads weren't being followed up on, consultations weren't scheduled correctly, patients weren't getting rebooked, tasks that used to happen automatically suddenly weren't happening at all. And the owner kept asking, how did Sarah do this? And nobody knew because there was no written down process, no SOPs. Everything lived inside 1 or 2 employee heads. And that's when we realized the business wasn't running on systems. It was running on people. So we documented the core processes, how leads were handled, how consultations were scheduled, how patients checked in, and how follow-up and rebooking happened. Once those systems were written down, new employees could be trained quickly, their consistency improved, and growth stopped depending on one person. The real enemy between 500,000 and 1 million isn't a lack of patience. It's dependency on a single person. And if you're serious about building $1 million business, don't make the mistakes that keep most owners stuck. In this next video, I break down the things almost every med spa owner wishes they knew before they started. From getting patients, to controlling costs, to avoiding operational traps that can kill your growth. So watch that next video and I'll see you there.